All right. We are back with a C1x video. And just one, I think. It's been well over a year since the last C1x video I did. Development has not stopped. I just stopped recording it. For what reason, I don't know. I think a part of it was that, initially when I was building Throw with the Pros in C1x, I was doing a lot of the development just by hand. AI is good enough now that AI does a lot for me, and I didn't feel it was necessary, I guess, to capture AI working with me still prompting and still doing a little bit of coding, but definitely just some waiting. So, anywho, but I did just recently release version 1.1 in C1x, probably the biggest update that I've had in the app. And I think that's going to be my last big update for maybe forever. Certainly for a while. I do have a few new things in the app that I'll run through. That I'll run through outside of it. Let's, you know what? Actually, I don't need that. We can close this. I'll open it up on my phone. But with the new update being released, me taking a break, certainly, from development right now. The last things, for once, that I have on my C1x to-do list are to record this video and to send out a newsletter. And then no more coding for a while. But the intent is to go check out the last video I did real quick, just so I can see where I left off. And then run through everything that's changed in the app, why I made the changes, where C1x could potentially go in the future. Probably not. I mean, it's pretty close as it is right now to where I would want it to be. Trying to multitask because I'm ill prepared, and that's never good. Let's start. I already pulled it up. Last C1x video. So I'm just going to be quiet for a second and just skip ahead through sections of this just so I can remind myself where we left off. All right, so we're finishing the deep stats update. Deep stats entry, okay, that looks pretty standard. Landing has been entered. Yeah, and this was
distances in the metric system. All of these graphics were updated as well.
5 months ago. Oh, it wasn't over a year ago. Okay, my years are off. I thought it had been a really long time. It was February of this year. So, man, time flies. It's only 5 months ago. It's not terribly long, but I think certainly the longest break I had in C1x, in filming C1x development since I started. All right, all rounds, global course list, tour course list, okay. We got some deep stats toggles, just looking through the thumbnails at the bottom here. Did some work on the toggles. This is what the settings look like. Yep. Little cloud work here. Some color selection. Ooh, here we go. This will be helpful.
All right, putting page, snapping back.
Oh, did I go too far? I think. Here we go. So I was working on V1.0.4. And it looks like, I assume I probably finished that. We were working on the putting location. Round scorecard was pretty normal. Going into the all stats. Okay.
Okay. I assumed it was right.
And I do have the version history document pulled up too. So we can go take a peek at that, but I think we're pretty close. Okay. So we'll call that good. So pull up my version history document here. Did I ever actually update this? I did not. We're going to go V1.1 because that's actually what I released it as. Yeah, so this was where we finished in that video. Added some sound effects, I think I had those on. I assume I had those on when I was filming this. You can kind of hear them if I shut up. Yeah, hopefully that's coming through. So yeah, I just pushed out Deep Stats, which was, I think, brand new. I won't release a name because I don't know if they'd want me to, but I did reach out to a handful of touring pros about the potential of C1X being of some value to them, especially the Deep Stats feature, and actually got a response from one of them. I've been corresponding with them for maybe I mentioned it in that video too. I think since before that video, they provided a ton of feedback on Deep Stats. I've made a ton of changes as a result of that feedback, and it's changed a little bit since that last video. So we'll run through that a little bit. Yeah, maybe we just roll through the items here. So first off, I'm going to skip ahead a bit, but in this latest update, which as you can see is a lot of things, not even including this, which was the last big update. Actually, more in this update. I just didn't document it as well. So brand new app tutorials across the entire app. They all look roughly like this. Just better explanations of how the different features in the app work, especially with the addition of some new features, which we'll get to. Don't need a new version. The course system in C1X got a complete rework. What I'm going to show in the app here is actually a little bit further along than what got released in the update. It's very close with one exception. So previously we had courses, just a course button, which looked like this down at the bottom. If you tap that, it took you to the add course menu. You could navigate to the different global course lists from there. But you always had to add courses to your personal list before you could play them in the app. And I realized that was just pretty silly. So there are no more personal course lists in C1X. It's just an app course list that you can start around from. If you do need to add a manual course, that's still available via this plus button. Down at the bottom, another tutorial, but same general idea, some differences. It really is a lot. And I have put zero thought into how I was going to go about this. I just hit record and started talking. But courses can now be classified by wooded, open, or mixed. So that's something you can enter when you're adding a course manually. We've got the difficulty slider still. It looks a little bit different, I think, than it did in that last video, but similar. Hold distances still works the same. We have course locations, which you can now add. You can use a current location or you can add one manually. So in the update that's available right now, this location, you would just select a country and then a state or province. This new use current location is tied to a new map feature that is in this version of the app that I'm showing, has not been publicly released yet. Long story short, I released the update, had a few more thoughts that I wanted to get in the app out of my head, so that if I ever do release another update, they're at least in there. I don't have to add them at a later date. So made some additional improvements that aren't actually available in the app yet, but if C1X starts to grow, we'll certainly get released. So yeah, add course, otherwise fairly similar. And then we've just got the global course list. And these don't have to be added to your personal list. You can see the courses that you manually added here in the added courses, but all of these courses are just already available in the app. On the back end, I built out a whole system towards making adding these courses even faster for myself, with the goal that if I do start to get a little bit of additional traction with C1X, what that benchmark is, I have no idea. I just know that it's a lot of work, and for the amount of users I have right now, it's probably not a great use of my time. If I can get some more users, then a very extensive course list can get built out pretty quickly. Pro Tour course list, slight structural changes to this, but the same for the most part. I've still been slowly updating this information as I go along. Sometimes course layouts change, courses get modified due to construction, yada yada, so there's a little update needed here. This is another thing that's in this version of the app, not in the update publicly right now, but if this ever gets published and you see a course that you think something's wrong, you just tap that button, it shoots me an email, and I can go make the change. Another new change to this course system is that it still has the local files, so it can pull from locally, because I want C1X to be, one of my gripes about current apps that are based on disc golf scoring and finding courses and whatnot is that they're quite internet dependent. I don't want C1x to work that way. I want it to work very quickly. I did build in a system for it to pull in the course files off of an online storage that I've built, with the goal of making it so that I can add courses to this list in the future and not require a full new app update in order to publish them. They can just be immediately available. The local files will get pushed with the app update, so even if you don't have internet, you'll always have that local file to pull from. But yeah, so can now update course lists without pushing a full update. This map feature is a new thing I've added. You can see red dots are pretty sparse because I don't have a ton of courses in yet, but that's something that'll get built out as I go along. Where am I at here? There we go. Here's Europe. I was gonna say we've got a few European courses. But yeah, so as I build out the course list, this will become a pretty useful tool for someone who does just show up at the course and you want to play around. You can find the course a bit quicker. That same thing exists here when you're setting up a round. So now there's no selecting a course that you played recently. It's just you can actually find it by location. Within the app update right now, the map does not exist, but there's also not a ton of courses. So you pretty quickly can search for a course that you're looking for, and if it doesn't exist, so I can think of you start typing in a course and it doesn't pull up, we have a new button here that will just take you directly to adding it manually. So that option exists. And I just keep rolling through here, setting up a round. So we now have casual, league, and tournament rounds, with the goal of just C1x at its core is a stats-based app. And a lot of people, especially disc golfers below the pro level, perform very differently between a casual round and a tournament round. And so seeing your stats based on those rounds, where you're weak, where you're strong, maybe you are still fine driving in a tournament round, but your putting just falls apart. Now you can distinguish between those. And this is something that can be changed after the fact too. So if you scored rounds in C1x before the update, you can edit them and make them casual, league, or tournament. You can also change the weather, because there are weather-based stats now too. But starting around, select your normal course. We've got recently played courses. We've got personal best now, PR notes for the courses that you've scored a round on. Yeah, so we can, let me see, am I in deep stats here? I'm not. All right, so scoring around works largely the same. I will probably just have to run through this list and see what else I'm missing, but pars, you can still change pars and distances. We've got the scorecard. Some comments I got were that it is hard to recognize within the app when you were actually navigating between different shots and holes, because previously the landing would just change, right? You just hit fairway and then this would immediately change to fairway. And so I added some animations, some sound effects, some visuals to make those changes more noticeable and intuitive so that it's easier to follow along during a round. So now I hit fairway, this all updates. You can see the animation as you move along. If I hit basket, and this is a par, so we get a little par thing to pop up before moving on to the next hole. Yeah, just subtle changes, but I think still important. You can click outside of putting distances now. That's not something you could do in the previous app. You would never be able to click outside of this dialog. You'd have to hit a distance and go and undo the last shot. So made that more intuitive. You can now click outside of it with no issues. Undo button got removed from this menu to it's actually its own button to also make that easier. So now you can just very quickly undo shots to make that a lot more streamlined. Skip hole still in there. Another thing I added at the Touring Pros request, which makes a lot of sense, is you get a handful of holes into the round and you look at your scorecard and you're like, oh wait, I birdied hole 1. I didn't par it. Previously in the last the update that was live in the last video, the only way to do that was to undo all of the shots back to that first hole and then re-enter it. That was a bit silly, so now we have an edit shots button, which shows up after you've completed the first hole, but I can go back to hole 1. You can change par and distance if you need to, but I can say, oh, I birdied it. I actually threw my first shot into circle 1 and then into the basket. And then we can just hit return, and now we've got a birdie. So, new option in the app. One other minor change I added was putting distances. So this was actually at the request of my girlfriend, Michaela. She's not overly concerned with what circle 2 distance she putted from, right? With putting distances are on a normal C1X. They're broken out into three different buckets, regardless of whether you're in the I'm totally blanking on the word, metric system or US system, with feet or meters. But broken up into 2 distance buckets. Some people don't care about that, which is completely understandable. One stat I do still think is important is parked versus not parked. So on C1, if you turn putting distances off here, C1 will just ask you parked or not parked. Also for people that aren't as used to seeing a basket and recognizing roughly how far they are, this makes that a little bit easier. For C2, there's no distance. It's just C2. So if you turn putting distances off, you no longer have to enter distances for those. But yeah, that's roughly it that's new on round scoring. I felt pretty good about the C1X round scoring system to begin with and didn't think that was overly worth changing. All rounds, click through the tutorial here. This works, again, largely the same. We show the PRs now. There's also now a direct link to the all stats button in case the user wants to navigate there. But all stats hasn't changed a ton, with the exception of we added some new variables for rounds, right? So we have our wooded versus open versus mixed courses. We have casual, league, and tournament rounds, and we have round weather. And those are all things that I can display stats from. So currently in the all stats view, this is all normal. This was what was existing in the app update previously, and now we have driving putting stats based on course styles. You can click on them. We've got the legend down here at the bottom. But so open, mixed, wooded stats. We've got casual, league, and tournament stats based on your usual performance here. All of them are just the general stats right now. Fairway hits, C1X putting, C2 putting, and then your average round score through 18 holes, which less important than driving and putting stats because course difficulties are going to vary, but still a fun stat to know. And then we have weather stats as well, which is the same thing, just fairway hits, circle 1 putting, circle 2 putting, because I think those are the stats that are important to note for your weather performance. Average round grade is still the same. Filter button still works roughly the same. It is a little bit cleaner now with showing course specific stats. There were some bugs that were in the last update with that. So those have been fixed. Still nothing changed here on the pro comparisons. I will turn deep stats on and we can go take a peek at this real quick. So we've got our new deep stats tutorial. Some requests that came up. So first and foremost, the ability to mark putts within circle 1, within C1X as laid up. You're in circle 2, you're at 60 feet, huge depth putt, you're not even going to run the putt, you just want to lay it up. You want to mark the distance correctly because you were at 60 feet, but if you're intentionally going for a layup, not accidentally, but intentionally, and it's user's preference, you're going to get the stats that you enter, you can mark it as laid up. So I'm in circle 2 right now, I can hit C1 and I can check laid up. This will still track the landings normally, but that won't count against your circle 2 putting stats. So we still got the dragging the dislocation. You'll notice these buttons down here, which also exist in throws. So this is the normal throwing here. We've got the same distance arrows that were in the previous deep stats, but another request that came up was, can I manually enter a distance? If the exact distances are important, can I say as it 280 feet, 265 feet, whatnot? So that option exists here. The grades got shifted to just a simple number scale. The Arrows weren't overly clear. This is quite a bit more intuitive, so that's better. Miss icons here come with their explanations, so now you can check those. Made it so you can't check duplicates, you can't miss high and low at the same time. That was something that was allowed in the last update. We've got the footing note still. A couple of release angles added, or a couple of flight paths added based on release angles at the request of said Touring Pro. And then up here we have 2 new stats that we're tracking, so you can now enter wind on any shot. So you just drag the arrow to indicate where the wind was. You get a strong tailwind putt or strong tailwind shot. And then we also have disc stats, which I'll get into in a second on how you build this. But in deep stats, you now have the ability to track specific stats for individual discs in your bag. So you've got your favorite Star Destroyer that you throw on all your tee shots. You can see exactly what your fairway hit percentage is with that Star Destroyer versus more stable disc, more understable disc, etc. So those all get entered. Everything else is still roughly the same. You can still edit shots, going back in deep stats. And then another thing that changed, which I didn't mention but I did click through, is previously the deep stats confirm shot was a swipe bar, and that was too confusing, which makes sense. So it is now just a button. So yeah, that's those are the changes with deep stats scoring. Within deep stats themselves, a ton changed. So added a new graphic right off the start called the dashboard, and this is just I want to know stats for a very specific shot type. And you can get super niche. I haven't recorded a ton of deep stats rounds on the simulator, so I don't have a ton of data here, but you could say I want hyzer backhands that are flip ups. Maybe I'm not specific on the weather. I only have one shot logged in the app that's a backhand hyzer flip up. Let's see if we can no anhyzer flip ups, turnovers. Only one shot. Trying to see if I've got more than one shot here. Here we go, 2 shots. 2 shots on backhand hyzers. They might have been the same round anyway, so it's not going to change a ton. Yeah, all to say that you can see stats for very specific shot types as you're logging them in your round. You can hide the filters as well, but this is just going to give you the basic fairway hit, percentage of the time that you're in circle 1 in regulation or circle 2 in regulation when throwing that shot, importantly on a critical shot. So let's say you're playing a par 4 and you've shanked it OB twice, you're in the rough, you're throwing your 6th shot, right? If you throw a backhand hyzer that's a flip up, it's not going to count towards your C1 in reg or C2 in reg, right? Because you didn't throw that shot within a throw that could have even got you to circle 1 in regulation, right? So on a par 4, it's going to have to be your first or second shot. Par 5, it could be one of your first 3 shots. Par 3, only on the tee shot is when these stats are going to come into play. Penalty rates, you can give every throw in deep stats and execution grade like I demonstrated earlier, and so you can see your average execution and then hole scoring. And hole scoring works the same way. If it's your 6th shot on a par 4, it's not going to count towards it, but first or second it will. So that's the dashboard. You can clear filters as well. So nice and easy. Practice ROI. Some changes into how this gets calculated, what it prioritizes, but same concept, just where you can gain strokes. Shot assessment. So this is the composite wheel graphic that I had in the last update, but I added the ability to filter it by weather and round type. So you can deselect here. Let's see. So I only want to know tournament stats versus I don't have a casual round, I guess. So league stats, casual, different weathers, etc. So fairly straightforward as well, but added that. Misdistribution, this works the same as it did in the previous update. I do love the putting heat map. I think that's pretty cool. Shot types work the same. Added legends for release angles and flight paths just because this was a little bit confusing. Legends are kind of hard to see. Not perfect, but it's going to work. I mentioned you could log wind for each individual shot, so of course we have stats for that. The wedges are based on the direction the wind is going in, so tail, wind blowing to the left, crosswind blowing to the right, etc. The wedges get filled based on your hole scoring, so on holes with a crosswind blowing to the right, parred half of them, birdied half of them. The wedges do get bigger based on the amount that you play in that wind, so this headwind to the right being smaller just means that you played less holes in a headwind to the right. And then we've got the fairway hit percentage shown in them, and then no wind stat in the middle. Same thing with wind on putting, and as with all of these, you can tap them and get the explanation. Get a worse wind for throws, worse wind for putts. So, and then lastly on deep stats, we now have disc performance. So here we can get individual stats for different types of throws and putting. You are able to log which disc you're putting with. But yeah, you can expand this list and see your individual discs, how many shots, hole scoring, and then fairway hit percentage and C1 in reg. So yeah, that's new in deep stats logging, or in stat keeping. Within the settings, so talking about disc stats, we now have within the deep stats box an edit bag. If you haven't created a disc yet or visited this feature, it should just say add bag. Yeah, in here you can add discs, no limit on discs, which was another user request. But most of the PDGA approved molds are available in the app. I manually added all of them, so you can just click through. It's going to have your disc type. You can select the mold. All of Innova's drivers. All major manufacturers just pull their flight numbers in as well. You can select the color that your disc is. So if you have a couple destroyers, one's black, one's white, you can distinguish between them. We've got weights. You can select main roll so that it will autofill during rounds. But yeah, you can click on a disc to get the details about it. Fairly straightforward. If you need to reorder discs, we added a little feature up here. So that's how you build a bag in C1x for disc-specific stats. It's just a fun little feature I added. Achievements. These don't unlock anything at the moment, but they're just fun things that I wanted to throw in there. I had some ideas for them unlocking features in the app beyond what I've already shown here, but decided against that for the time being. So right now, just a fun little achievements feature. Sound effects we talked about. I have added more sound effects in the app. No other notes here. Achievements, deep stats. I think we're good to go there. And then the biggest part of the new update is C1x Seasons. So C1x Seasons is the social feature within C1x. This is, I believe, the first disc golf competition to exist that's not limited by location or skill level. So within the C1x Seasons feature, I built out a course difficulty system and a handicap system that theoretically will let, for those in Utah, we have the Fort, which is quite the hard course. So, I could go play at the Fort. You could have a beginner disc golfer go play at a local pitch and putt, and the app is capable of comparing those rounds against each other. So you can create a season, customize it a little bit. You can call it just the Friends League, set an icon, set a color. Two different formats. So we have Classic, which is just normal golf scoring, stroke scoring. Scores in all of these, as long as handicaps are enabled, which they are by default. You can turn them off if you want to. But scores are always adjusted based on the course that you're playing at and your handicap, which is going to be tied to a rating that you get in the app, with a value that's comparable to the PDGA system in terms of the scale of numbers. But class is going to be stroke score. So you shoot a 4 under par, that's your score, with the exception of if I shoot a 4 under par but I do it at a really hard course, that 400 car is going to get scored even lower, right? Because I did it at a hard course. And let's say I shot better than my rating, so then the score is going to go even lower, right? So if I shot a 4 under at a really hard course, maybe it becomes a 7 under, and I shot 40 points above my rating, then maybe it's like a 10. Whereas if I go play a pitch and putt and I only birdie half the holes, I'm going to shoot worse than my rating. It's going to be on an easy course, so I may shoot a 6 under at the pitch and putt, but it might end up being like a 2 or 3 over, just because of how easy the course was and how much worse I performed to my rating. So that's how the system works. For those looking for a little change of pace, we have the fantasy mode, and this is it's called fantasy, kind of along the lines of a fantasy sports league. You get points for pars, birdies. You get deducts for bogeys, points for C1x putts made, points for C2 putts made, points for fairway hits, etc. More of a stats-based scoring, but the same thing, still affected by course difficulty and handicap. You can play on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, entirely up to you. Weekly just meaning that there's a new round essentially every week, and monthly for the month's version. You can select the number of rounds people submit for a week, so you could do, we're doing it on a weekly cadence, and it's 3 rounds a week, and everyone plays 3 rounds a week, and it's super involved. For those looking for it to be a little more casual, you can do 1 round per month. Dealer's choice. Handicap system on by default. You can turn it off if you want to. If you're playing with 2 or 3 buddies and you're all about the same skill level, there's not a need to have handicaps, but you could still if you want to. Bye weeks are an option, but yeah, that's it. That's how you create the season. You can select the duration. Everyone gets a user profile. So you can see I have my rating here. You can see your season history. You can select your own icon. You can tap your rating to get a whole breakdown of how your rating's being produced. I haven't checked my screen in a while, but it's great that we're still recording. That's awesome. Once you have a season, you get a code. So we'll look at, I'm on the Another Round Salt Lake team. So we created a little test league for this. All of your seasons have a little invite code, which I'm sharing this on the video, so if anyone wants to join the code, feel free. Week 7 of 8, so it's almost over. But yeah, you can have people join your rounds. You just share that code, and when someone wants to join your season, all they have to do is go hit join, type in the code here, and they'll get added. So nice and easy. You've got weekly leaderboards, season leaderboards. Here you can kind of get an idea of how the handicap system works. So scored a test round at Fountain Hills. Tapped the round, so raw score was 1 over. So you can see here 3 birdies, 4 bogeys. I shot a 1 over for the round. If we go down here, score adjustments. So Fountain Hills was in the version that I have on the app, a slightly easier course, but only barely. So only a 0.3 stroke penalty, which isn't going to change from +1 to anything. So stayed at 1 over. But my rating in the app at the time was 979. The round rating was only 807. So I got a 4-stroke penalty added on to the round because of that. Whoops. So my raw score was 1 over, but the score that I got on the season is a 5 over. And that's the score that you're going to be placed on the leaderboard as a result of. So we got season settings. Season owners can share the code here, copy it, change color, but you also can kick members in the season early, transfer ownership to a different season owner, to a different member of the season. So pretty normal there. And then adding rounds. So if you score a round all the way through in C1X, you'll get the option at that finish round screen to add it to one of these seasons just automatically. Just a little toggle next to Another Round SLC crew, and it'll add it to the season. If you forget to do that, you can add it here after the round. So I haven't scored a round this week in the simulator yet. I guess here we can I can go ace. Do I have a test? I do. Par 18. Here we go. So a little 6-hole course. So I'm in deep stats. Let's disable deep stats. We'll go test distance. We'll just ace it. Do a little tutorial. So here you can see I can add it to seasons. When I add it to seasons, it'll give me a breakdown of what my what points value or score value I would get for the round. And you can tap on those scores to understand where it's coming from. So fairly straightforward here. You can kind of see the fantasy points breakdown just a little bit. Now this is a bad example because it's just aces and fairway hits, no putts or anything. No scores other than aces, but you would get the full breakdown here. 66 to 211 is because it's only a 6-hole course, so everything is always scaled towards 18 holes. So that way, even if it's a 6-hole pitch and putt, we can still compare it to a full 18-hole round. Same thing here. So you can always add it there after the fact, or right after your round, or within the season. It'll show up right here. So you can get the score breakdown if you want to, but this is how it works. You can hit add. Handicaps are enabled. So C1x, the handicap system, course difficulty system, are pretty dependent on the infrastructure that I built in for the app. I know there are people who are insistent on using their own scorekeeping methods, and you can still participate in C1x Seasons if that's the case. You just can't do it within a handicap season. So if I go down here, the Saturday morning card, I have handicaps turn off. Oh, it is a fantasy season, yeah. So you can see if I click add round, it says manual entry unavailable for fantasy seasons. So if you want to just enter a round without scoring it through C1x, you can still participate in a season. It just has to be a classic season. So round score, score to par based only, and handicaps have to be off. For fantasy seasons, I need all the stats, which I'm only going to get from C1x. Because no other app records all of the stats that are necessary for those calculations. And for handicaps, I need not only those stats, but I also need course difficulty information and rating information to pull that in. So for those scoring in an app like UDisc, you can still participate in a season. It just has to be classic and no handicaps. At the same time, I think scoring in C1x is pretty quick, so just score it in C1x anyways. But yeah, so it's that easy to add around. Once you add it, it pops up on the leaderboard. And that's C1x Seasons. So yeah, big update. What am I missing? Let's see. Talked about the Pro Tour course list, course management system, course environments, sound effects. Yeah, lots of bug fixes, which I won't go through. The dot throw counter was one. So previously, throws would get counted with dots here. It's just a number now to make that nice and simple. There are sound effects based on the score. So let's, I'll turn this up a little bit. I don't know if that came through at all. Birdies, pars, bogeys, aces, eagles each have their own sound effect in the app for when you score them. You can always, again, turn those off in the settings or just turn your app volume down. But those exist. Bug fix. Yeah, round setup menu did change just in terms of layout. But I think it looks pretty good now. App tutorials, putting distances, I talked about. Go back and edit shots, composite wheel graphic, manually type in distances, wins, courses, yep. Oh, yeah. Well, one thing that wasn't in the last update is deep stats over multiple rounds. So I do forget how much has gone into it. I guess previously this wasn't in there at all. You had deep stats for an individual round. I didn't keep deep stats on that one, obviously, but yeah, now there are deep stats for all rounds. So that was a big change. Bug fix, round stats, yep. Visual change, score distribution graphic, yeah, so I think the change here, I just added a line. Not a big change, not an overly impactful graphic either, but just a fun one I thought to add. Visual changes, round setup to add course page if the course doesn't exist. I mentioned that. Recently played list on the round setup dialogues. If you're always playing your home course, you don't have to search for that one every time. Especially won't have to once the location feature is in the app, but not live for the current update. Yeah, courses system, just a rework of all of that. we talked about. Lots of changes to the add course view. I don't even remember what all has changed, but I think some layout changes definitely implemented. Casual league or tournament rounds, weather logging. Yeah, previously weather logging was only available in deep stats. Now it's available for all rounds. Some change into logging in deep stats. We talked about laid up putts. On the round display view, there's now a, I guess once now deep stats is enabled, on a round that has deep stats logged, which I think this one does. Yeah, there's now a nice little arrow to see deep stats. This will also look different. There's a nice arrow for courses that have more than, I might have one here, testing more, I do. Yeah, so now there's a nice little flashing arrow just to tell you that you can swipe over. All right, the dashboard graphic we talked about, bag and disc, log which disc, better undo button when scoring a round, which was big. Adjustments to the C1x round grading system. So I had a couple users point out instances to me where the grading system was either a little hard or a little soft. So made some tweaks to that. Editing course information. Oh, the main menu. This is now the C1x logo and not just the C1x text. That was a nice change. That was something I was proud about too. I'm not a graphic designer by trade, but I did hand draw is not the right word. Handmade in Canva. The C1x logo, the basket I created with individual shapes. So I was pretty happy with that. If anyone ever finds me out on a course in Utah or anywhere else, I've got a whole bunch of minis that are can toppers, glow in the dark with that logo on it. So you just gotta ask for one. Another bug fix, and then in this latest update, big rework to courses, achievements, C1x Seasons. Sharing feature I didn't talk about. That was a cool one. So we will get their PR 50 discs, which that's now changed to be unlimited in the new update. So yeah, last thing to note here. C1x now has a improved sharing feature. So there was a share button up at the top that would create a little printout, but I thought it looked terrible. And I want C1x to, I'm talking about the minis. I've got one right here. They're also UV sensitive, so they're clear, they glow in the dark, and they turn purple in the sun, which I think is pretty cool. I want to be able to share C1x on my own socials, especially for fulfilling sponsor requirements, posting for tournaments and stuff, without exerting a lot of effort, and I want it to look good. So the sharing button now pulls up a whole dialog. You can select what you want. We've got simple graphics, detailed. These are both for individual rounds. So this is just going to be for the round that's displayed. And I have example of these, which I'll pull up in a sec. You can also go full height, so just full phone height, whatever device you're on. There's also social, so for people posting on a platform like Instagram, it'll make a nice graphic that's already sized perfectly for that platform. So we've got simple, detailed, tournament, which is going to combine up to 3 rounds in a tournament. I'm calling it a leaderboard style graphic, but it's just going to be a nice summary of the round that you played, some basic stats, whole scores, kind of what you would expect from here's how I did in the tournament. And then for those looking for a little bit more, we have the event display, which I call an artistic event recap. That's kind of what it is. I think it looks pretty cool. There's lots of color options, which I'll demonstrate here. For simple and detailed, you just hit share and it's ready to go. Tournaments and events displays you have to set up, and I'll do the event display one. I'll do both. We can just say test. You can enter round ratings if you want those displayed, and then you select tier. You can enter the position you finished in if you want to. Payouts you can type in. We've got different international currencies. For the tournament graphic, these are the colors you get. Pretty standard, fairly simple. The goal with the tournament graphics is definitely just to very clearly display the information on how you played. Event display graphic setup works largely the same. You can add rounds also. That's what these buttons are down for. So this is how you add them. You reorder them using these arrows. Don't have to add 3, but you can add up to 3. These all work the same. So you select your tier, finish, and payout, and then the event displays a little bit more. Creativity is not the right word. Just more involved with the visuals of this graphic. So we've got some exciting color options here, which I'll show. Within each of these color options, there are, although it's in a more artistic form, I'm still conveying your whole scoring. So, like on the tournament graphic, we've got the teal circles for birdies, orange circles for bogeys. I still want to convey, these are intended to be more artistic, but they still need to convey how you played. If this is unchecked, your whole scoring color is just going to be based on the color theme, so it's going to be a little harder to tell. If you want it to be easier to tell, you can check standard score colors, and that will just make it so that within these graphics, birdies are still indicated in that same teal color, bogeys in orange. So that's how you create a graphic, and then I'll go show what these look like. This is an example of how much testing I did to get these right. So we can start with the rough around the edges versions. First, we'll go with simple. So this is an example of the simple graphic for a single round. We got date, location, hole scoring, basic hole breakdown, and then just standard stats, C1x putting, C2 putting, fairway. Again, you have the option for those to go full screen. If you want to, like this one, this is the same simple graphic but full screen. So you always have the ability to do that. This is an example of, we'll go detailed first. So this is detailed for that same round. So detailed, still showing the same information. We've got hole scoring, round score. We've got fairway shots. So this is where you landed off of the tee pad. Circle 1, circle 2, fairway, rough. Casual round, clear weather, mixed course style. So definitely intended to convey as much information as possible. It's not the most intuitive. To be fair, the single detailed graphic is probably not the one that you're going to be showing on Instagram, but it is the ones for sharing with your friends that are using C1X already. If you shot the round of your life and it was a tournament round in snowy weather on a really wooded course, and you can convey all of that in a single graphic. We've got round grades as well, so that's detailed. We then have the tournament graphics. And again, this is kind of what you would expect it to be. Within these graphics, I didn't add the tier, or I did add the tier. We have the C tier here. I didn't add the finisher payout. If you added those would be shown in this graphic as well, just right underneath. But yeah, this is individual rounds, your whole scoring, and then just, again, standard C1X putting, C2 putting, and fairway hit percentages for each round. So this is a really easy way to convey your tournament performance. The event display one took a while. So I'm just going to work through the versions of what this started at, because I just wanted it to look cool, right? That was my goal of making it look cool, and I went through so many revisions. This was the start of it. I started coming up with ideas for different graphic styles to convey. So, this is still whole scoring. This is a par, 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 par. Each segment of the spiral is a hole colored based on how you scored. So this was just a round of aces that I generated during testing. We've got all kinds of visuals on ways that I was trying to convey this. You can see me messing around with color schemes and all kinds of stuff. At one point, it just started to get substantially worse. Anywho, so to fast forward a bit, this is what they look like now. Let me find which one I want. Yeah, so here's a good example of conveying a tournament performance. This was me as a test run. I was using a couple of Gannon Burr's recent performances. So this was the PDGA European Open as a major. 4 rounds. The graphic only shows 3 rounds. To show 4 rounds, it's just too much, especially for social media. The event display sharing graphic only allows sharing to social media. As an important note, just because there's so many different device screen sizes that to make something like this that always looks good regardless of the device size, I need the graphic size to be the same across all devices. So staying in the social 3:4 ratio. But yeah, we've got round ratings, round scores, 3 different graphics that each still convey the same thing. It's still hole scoring. So these were 3 18-hole rounds. There's 18 bars going across here. There's 18 rings on this spiral, and there's 18 vertical bars here. This is an example of standard hole colors, right? So this is the monochrome color palette for the event display, which is just whites, grays, and blacks. If standard score colors was not selected, all of these would also be whites, grays, and blacks. But because they're checked, you get the normal hole scoring colors. Each box is also wrapped in a border that's also the same hole scoring. So yeah, this is the sharing graphic. This is an example of what it looks like when you have the standard score colors not selected, and hole scoring just defaults to the color palette. There's lots of color options, as you can see. But yeah, this is how they work. I was just going to scroll through a few other color palette options just to show them off a little bit. And these are all this feature. All of this is available in the app right now. So if you go download the app, these will be in there. Lots of examples with standard hole scoring colors being implemented. And it's very easy in the app to just generate a handful of these with the same information, just varying the color selections, so you don't have to re-enter it over and over again. Yeah, my testing new schemes. This was me testing out some new color schemes that I added. So it's a cherry blossom one in the app that I think looks pretty good. But yeah, that's the C1x sharing feature, which is always just accessible from the round display view. So that's in the app right now. And yeah, that is that's where C1x is at currently. What else to talk about? There's really not much. The update went live, I think, about a week ago. I made some changes into the app. The big one being this map feature for courses. Just so I'll be ready to implement that in the future with the course list, with the updated course list. I built out a whole Excel spreadsheet just to make entering course information a little bit faster. But yeah, latest update was live. That's version 1.1, live on iOS and Android. Seasons is live. The only thing that I've shown today that isn't in the app right now is, I think, this maps feature. Everything else is good to go. I'm going to publish this video on YouTube. I'm going to send out a newsletter. C1x website's been updated so that more accurately reflects where the app is at right now. C1x has new store listings for the App Store and Google Play Store, new screenshots. Yeah, everything has been kind of cleaned up, and I think now I'm probably going to step away for a little bit. Still using C1x. I've used C1x in pretty much every disc golf round that I played this year. No intention of stopping that. I think one of the big issues I had with using C1x previously was just the course system, and now that it's updated, that works a whole lot better. So it's quick to start rounds, which was the biggest hiccup. But yeah, and who doesn't want to create graphics like that for tournaments? I have yet to play a tournament since I created those graphics, so I'm excited to debut that. I've sent those graphics out to a few people individually, but I haven't. I guess this video will be my first public showing of those graphics, which I'm sure no one will see. So people will just have to see it when it goes up on Instagram for a tournament. But yeah, probably gonna step away from I guess coding disc golf apps in general, unless something changes in the future. But I'm I'm pretty happy with where C1x is at now. Wanted to record the video just because it felt like it had been a long time, and it had been. Lots had changed in C1x, and I wanted to capture that. Maybe I'll do a new tutorial video at some point, but I kind of doubt it. The tutorial video that the app links to is quite outdated. I'm not even gonna click on it because I don't want to pull it up. What else? What else? Thanks to anyone who's been testing out C1x and providing feedback or even just using it on occasion. It's 100% free to download and use right now, and I intend to keep it that way. I think it has the ability to just make a lot of things easier to do in disc golf, especially the C1x feature or the Seasons feature, and just competing with your friends. I think that's a pretty cool thing to get a group involved with. But I feel like I've just been rambling the whole time. I'll shut up and end it here. Again, probably the last video I'll put up on the C1x YouTube channel. Certainly for the foreseeable future. Still, obviously I still have the code, so bug fixes, crashes come up, those are stuff that I can hop on and fix pretty quickly. Especially because AI is pretty magical at this point. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what's gonna come next. Right now I'm working 2 jobs, and that's taking up plenty of time. And I don't know. Still like code mobile apps, but I think Throw the Pros and C1x are kind of the peak of what I'm gonna put together in that realm at the moment. So, which I think is good. Updated my personal website too, so the C1x links are accurate now, because I hadn't done that in a while. I think at a minimum, this is C1x is an app that I'd be proud to point people to, which is really all that I could ask. So, yeah, if there's anything you want to see in C1x or from a disc golf app moving forward, you can drop a comment down below. I'll still get notifications on those. You can reach out at the C1x website or on my website, which are also linked in places around YouTube, so they shouldn't be hard to find. But thanks to anybody who finds us after the fact, and yeah, we'll see you when I see you.